Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing as the VFW raises the flags and the Air Force Band of Flight Drum and Bugle performs the National Anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated if you have a seat. Our guest speaker today is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, and this is not the first time he's been at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Colonel Michael E. Phillips received his Master of Science degree in Strategic Leadership and Intermediate Development Education right here at the Air Force Institute of Technology, and that was back in 2007. The Colonel is presently the Vice Commander of the 88th Air Base Wing, helping to command and provide all the needed services to over 5,000 officers and airmen, and another 25,000 civilian and contract employees. Now that is a small city right within itself, so he has a lot of weight on his shoulders. Now, while we honor our vets today, we also know that the families around each and every vet make sacrifices as well. So I'd like to welcome Colonel Phillips' wife, Carrie, and his daughter, Ashley. If my papers didn't stick together, we'd be moving right along. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce, and please help me welcome, the Vice Commander of the mighty 88th, Colonel Michael E. Phillips.
Take the mask off so you can actually hear me today. So thank you so much, Mayor Stone, Representative Perales, or should I say Commissioner-elect, other distinguished guests and visitors, and of course, my favorite part of any ceremony that I get to participate in when I'm off base, getting to be in front of the Air Force Band of Flight. I like to say I'm with the band. You see, you won't remember a word I'll say today, but I'm 100% confident that you're going to remember what they bring to this ceremony. This is the first time they've had the opportunity to perform outside of the installation since the pandemic hit. So please, join me in giving them a round of applause. Thank you all for coming today. As the mayor said, the show must go on, and it's an incredible honor to recognize the over 22 million American veterans who've served this great nation, with nearly 1.4 million still serving actively today. As many of you know, Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day. It was first established on 11 November 1919, the first anniversary of the First World War, celebrated on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It was the war to end all wars, and thus the nation felt it should be commemorated as such. Unfortunately, time would soon prove that moniker wrong, and Armistice Day morphed into Veterans Day in 1938, and within a few short years, our nation found itself back at war again. You know, my family and I had the distinct honor and privilege to be stationed in Europe just a few years ago. It's actually right after we left here at Wright Pat the first time. While there, we made the most of our time overseas. If any of you have ever lived there, you know what I mean. Especially with a pair of history buffs like my son and I, we toured every place we possibly could. Omaha Beach, witnessing the immensely complexity that our forces had when storming Pointe du Hoc on D-Day. We traced the trenches, running from battlefield to battlefield, even walked the path of the forest that Sergeant Alvin York took during the Meuse-Argonne offensive. We read about the horrors he faced, the bravery he displayed, and the life-saving efforts that eventually led to him being awarded the Medal of Honor. We never thought we'd ever get a chance to meet a hero like that in our lifetimes. But the following tour, just a few years later, took my family and I to the Pentagon, Washington, D.C., where through a strange twist of fate, we were blessed to meet young Marine Lance Corporal Carpenter and his amazing family. This incredible young man, a product of a small city just like Beavercreek, was the embodiment of everything that is great about our nation and the people who serve it. In his book, You Are Worth It, Corporal Carpenter recounts the story of the fateful day in Afghanistan when his post came under attack. He selflessly took the blunt of a grenade blast, saving the life of his best friend and that of his platoon. His positive message is incredibly strong. And it's simple, but it resonates. You are worth it. We are all worth that sacrifice. And while most veterans will never face down the enemy the way that he did, each veteran knows the sacrifice that they may be called upon to make in support of this great nation and its ideals. Lance Corporal Carpenter represents the best of our veterans, and that's no ordinary group of Americans. Our nation's veterans include more than 2 million female veterans. Last year, over 12% were African American, over 10% Hispanic. Now, unlike Memorial Day, the focus of today is to recognize all veterans, to include those who have served our nation and still join us today. Veterans like our own Mayor Bob Stone, an Army vet who received the Bronze Star during his active service. Thank you, Mayor Stone. Also joining us, another veteran, Representative Rick Perales, Air Force civil engineer by trade, used to call Wright Pat home. He's now found a different way of serving his country, but a fellow veteran as well. Rick, thank you so much for your service. In fact, while you're clapping, there are a ton of veterans out here today. So if you're a vet, please raise your hand. Thank you. I salute each and every one of you. These veterans, fewer than 1% of all Americans, step forward when most others would not. They weren't Democrat or Republican. They didn't come from the left or the right. They didn't volunteer as black, white, yellow, or green. They didn't stand together as male or female. They didn't step forward on behalf of a specific religion, but rather they were Americans. More so, they were the best of Americans. They stepped forward not knowing what was in store for them, what would be asked of them, and full well knowing they could potentially be asked to give their life in defense of this great nation. Now, Mayor Stone mentioned it earlier, but I'd be remiss if I didn't think of another group that joins us today, the families that support those veterans. Our commander, Colonel Pat Miller, likes to recount that the military family, is the best deal we've got going. We don't pay them a thing, but we ask everything of them. You know, families like that of Lance Corporal Kyle Carpenter, who not only sat by his side during his recovery for many, many years, but continue to work on behalf of military families today. Personally, my family, well, they're the reason I still serve. They enable me to continue to serve to this day, almost 30 years running. And like many military families, they've moved a lot. Ours, 13. and we're pretty fortunate to be coming right back here to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I cannot thank them enough for their sacrifice and moreover their commitment to this great nation, as I truly believe while they may not wear the flag of our nation on their shoulders, they have served us as well. So while today may be focused on those of us wearing the uniform and those who have once worn it, I'd like to extend a special thank you to those members behind us who have sacrificed more than we should have ever have asked. We serve not for the glory, but rather so that those we leave behind can live in freedom. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a great day for our nation as we gather in small towns just like this across the country, freely recognizing the sacrifice so many have given in service to this great nation. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Honor to the soldier and sailor everywhere who bravely bears his country's cause. Honor also to the citizen who cares for his brother in the field and serves as best he can the same cause." Thank you so much. God bless, and happy Veterans Day.
Colonel, thank you very much. It was very inspiring, and we all need a little reminder now and then about our veterans. So thank you for your kind words. Please join in as the Air Force Band of Flight plays the Armed Forces Medley. So when your service hits, stand, wave your hand, do whatever you need to do, but sing along. Thank you very much. Army. Marines. Navy. Coast Guard. And our own good neighbor, the Air Force. Thank you very much. And you know, next year, or sometime very soon, there'll be a sixth, the Space Command. So we look forward to their national anthem. I had the privilege of hearing it just a couple weeks ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for joining us today to honor our veterans. We thank the Air Force Band of Flight, and they are now called the Drum and Bugle Group, the VFW Post 8312, and thank them both for their wonderful contribution to our event today. I want to thank our staff for putting this all together. It doesn't happen magically. Staff does a lot of work for us. And a special thanks to our guest, Colonel Phillips, and his family. So thank you, sir. As we close today, the Air Force Band of Flight will perform America the Beautiful, followed by a rifle salute by the VFW, and concluded with taps by the Band of Flight. At the end of taps, you are dismissed, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everyone.